Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Product Costing for Modern Finance Organizations, Creating a Cost-Focused Culture. My name is Stacy Adams. I'm the Director of Marketing here at 3C Software, and we have Adrian, who you can see on the screen. Today, he's going to be talking to you a little bit about this topic of cost-focused culture and how you can really drive value by enabling that within your organization. Just a few housekeeping notes from me. There's a chat box over in the right-hand side of your panel. If you have a question during the webinar, feel free to post it there or raise your hand or something. I'll be monitoring all of that. And we're happy to pop in during the conversation to ask questions live. So let's make it interactive. Don't hold your questions to the end. Ask them when you have them. Adrian loves to have more discussions, so I'm sure he'll be happy to have that happen. And the other question that we always get is, will we get these slides afterwards? So look out for information on how you can get the slides as well as a recording of this webinar afterwards in the email that you use to register for today's session. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Adrian. Welcome.
Thank you, Stacey, very much for the great introduction and setting up the rules of this webinar. I'm very excited speaking about this topic today of creating a cost-focused culture in the space of when we talk about product costing in modern finance organizations. It's something that is I'm very passionate about. I hope you will see that throughout this webinar, and I'm happy to have you guys on the webinar today. So let's jump right in. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Adrian Grochowski. My last name is way too complicated to pronounce, so Adrian will be just fine. Yes, I am German. I love SAP. My last name is too complicated to pronounce, and I have been in this field for a long, long time. Been doing this for over 16, 17 years now. Working with most or a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, some of them that you see on the bottom of the screen. My role at 3C Software is I'm the solution leader as well as the head of sales. And yeah, so welcome everybody. Having said that, a little bit about ourselves. So 3C Software, our company, is the name of our company. We are cost and profitability thought leaders, and we're also inventors of this platform that we call Impact ECS. And Impact ECS basically provides a tool set and applications where we bring the right data to the right place, connect the data in order to calculate results specifically with your business rules to then lead to better decision-making capabilities. And how we benefit corporations such as yours is we either supplement ERP cost and profitability functionalities. A lot of times we also replicate some of these processes and become a what-if simulation engine. And the third benefit that we do or we provide to organizations like yours is we provide alternate or more enhanced views how to look at your costs and how to look at your profitability. So I just wanted to get this out of the way very quickly. Hope you're able to follow. Happy to talk about all this and hopefully after this webinar when you're more interested of getting to know each other. So today, what is our agenda today? So today we're going to be focusing on why is culture important in organizations? Why is culture important in finance organizations? We're also going to be talking about the role that finance plays in creating, establishing, and maintaining this culture. And we're also going to be talking about what kind of steps can we take or need to take when we build a cost-focused culture, and what are some of the supporting or enabling cars around this cost-focused culture when we talk about technologies and tool sets that you can use to start this journey towards this cost-focused culture. So let's talk about the definition of culture. So this is a pretty good definition that we have found. So Dean and Kennedy defined culture as the following, the way we do things around here. And we found this to be very accurate and very simple, and that's how we bring it up here. But just know, so culture and the way, as we define it, is the way we do things around here. Right? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So we also, it is commonly known and proven that if you look at companies across this world, companies that focus on creating a healthy culture, be it a cost culture, be it a working culture, they are outperforming or gaining competitive advantage towards their competition. And this a study that we have found around corporate culture says, that's around the 20% outperformance, right? Which I thought was a very interesting statistic. It can be seen in organizations that are starting up. It can be seen in organizations that are changing, right, due to M&As or due to business strategy changes. But also it can be seen in organizations that are in the process of revamping their culture inside of this organization, right? I think for all of these scenarios, it is true that the competitive advantage is a sign of a healthy culture. Now, when we talk about when we talk about finance, we always, in culture, we want to think about, okay, what role does finance play in defining these cultures? So, in the same study, we have found that the number of CFOs that are actively involved in shaping the company's culture is 51%. That means that finance is plays a very dominant role in defining the culture, right? And again, this goes back to starting a business, revamping a culture that's already existing, right, or change, or an organization that's changing in its way of doing things. So now the question is, why finance, right? Because finance typically, this statistic actually proves it, it's got what everybody wants, right? So if we look at the statistics, this is who manages and governs data for decision making, and finance is on top of the statistics. But what's very interesting about this is this most companies have an average of 5 internal data sources, right? So 5 data sources, that's a lot of data flying around in a lot of disparate systems, and the expectations of finance of always providing quick answers, accurate answers, insightful answers very, very quickly becoming more and more challenging, right? Especially when we talk about consistently changing data sets, right? These 5 data sources don't always stay consistent. They always change. They change to internal reasons of an organization, but they are, or for transactional purpose, for example, but also for external reasons, right? For something that's changed in the fast-paced business environment they're in, right? Be it raw material prices, etc. Right? So when it's very important that, or this just underlines why finance is a big player in defining the culture. And I also believe that this slide is saying that finance is leading the way and in how we make decisions on a data driven basis. So, having said that, we've seen this, but we all know what really happens, right? I saw the statistic. Actually, Stacy showed me a statistic that we got to include this in this webinar. So, what really happens is 58% of companies base their decisions on gut versus data. Why? Well, I think a lot of people would agree with me. Is, well, it's always easy to say, well, we've always done it this way. That's one thing. The other thing is, well, we don't have 100% trust in our data that we have. Another reason could be, oh, well, it's just too complicated. It kind of was. It was leaning this way the last time we did it a couple of years ago, so it should be good, right? So this 58% of the time, company-based decisions on gut versus data, I think it's a thing that we see every day in our organizations, right? The second statistic here is that companies use only 50% of available data to make decisions, right? The reason for that being they are too disparate, it's too complicated, too time-consuming to pull them all together, or very simply, we just don't have the tool set to even integrate them and pull them all together, right? It goes back to the technology aspect that we talked just a second ago. I hope you all see this. But again, this slide is actually supposed to tell you, hey, this is what happens, and nobody talks about it, but this is a good statistic shows this is what really happens in the organization. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about cost culture. So cost culture, the way we at 3C Software define it, is the way we make decisions around here. Talking about the way we make decisions around product costs, around profitability, and that is what we define cost culture. So when we talk about costing, what is costing made of, right? And there's a lot of aspects that go into this notion of costing. So there's data structures, there's product and service costing methods, there are cost captures, the way costs are captured on different levels, in different environments, and there's these cost and profitability models that are supposed to help us make better decisions, right? And all of these are kind of they have a fundamental commonality of a set of data governance, integrity control, policies and processes, specific operating model, and of course regulatory, statutory, etc. Aspects as well, right? But if you look across organizations, and myself and Matthew Smith, our CEO and president, if you know him, we travel a lot. I mean, last year we went to over 65 Fortune 500 companies and talked about this topic of costing culture, and this is just, it's proven a very, very accurate of what is costing made of, right? These aspects that are listed here. So when we talk about these aspects, now we talk about, okay, how does cost and cost transparency, which is the goal of cost-focused culture, how do they impact decisions we make? And these decisions might be an everyday decision on an operative level. They might be a strategic decision that's more forward-looking. You name it. But this concept of having a transfer accessibility to your cost gives you the following this following grid, right? And in this grid, what we see here is how the transparency of the cost impacts other areas. For example, determining your true product cost, determining your operational performances, where to look for improvements, where to look for challenges that I have, where do I need to solve a problem, right? My financial operations. How do I look at my customers and my contracts, right? Am I really determining my full end-to-end profitability, or am I stopping at my manufacturing level, right? What about my post-manufacturing activities? We also will look at profitability analytics to drive strategic analysis and decisions for more business strategy, and that goes all the way back to having accessibility to the right data and performing what I talked about earlier, these what-if simulations, right? What happens if this customer, puts in an order of 30% more volume than before the next 3 years, right? What impact is that going to have on our machine loading at each plant, right? Do we need to make some capital investments, etc.? So having a good foundation of this cost transparency leads to making better decisions around all these kind of activities. Now, when we see companies, what are some of the traits or some of the commonalities that they either start doing, they embrace doing, or they build to be incorporated in their culture? And some of these traits I have listed here, and one of them, the first one being enhancing your skills. So the speed of business today, as it's a fast-paced environment, requires finance to integrate data very, very fast, master analytical tools that deliver strategic insights or come up with insightful answers very, very quickly. So you need skills on a people level, but also on a tool set level. The second one being, there is a balance between data and instincts of people, right? Decisions aren't made on automatically or on autopilot. We need to use data to validate or disprove, not to dictate our direction or our decisions. All right, that's a very, very important one. If you don't take anything away from this webinar, other than Adrian talking funny, please take these traits away. I think they're phenomenal, right? The third one being forging new relationships. So finance must move away from this numbers guy who is known as, oh, he does awesome spreadsheets, right? We need to move away from that to become a partner and internal consultant of, hey, let's understand the business, what does it mean, and build this whole, together with the operation, tell a story from a financial point of view and from an operational point of view. We'll talk about storytelling in just a minute. Developing best practices. It's not good enough to start with a couple initiatives and then just stop. Right? The key is you need to do this over and over again and trying to get better and better at it. So to evolve strategies into best practices and then create an analytics ecosystem across your organization. That could be for the way you look at profitability, the way you look at your product costs, the way you look at your operational costs, your machine efficiencies, you name it. Right? But the key is keep developing, keep getting better. So now the question is, how do we start building this cost culture, right? We talked about what it is. We talked about what some of the traits are. Now, what can we do, or what can you guys do to start embracing, not just building, but also maintaining this cost culture we talked about? So we've listed 6 components, what John Coleman defines as, these are the 6 components that make up a great corporate culture, right? So there's the vision, what's the purpose of costing? There's the values, there's practices, there's people, there's the narrative, and there's places. So we're going to jump in all these 6 of them and define this a little bit further. So when we talk about vision, we talk about what are you trying to achieve, right? And it might be any of these visions that you might have, or any of these vision statements that you're trying to achieve. I want to talk about 1 or 2 and just name specific examples. Right? We had a customer, a very large, the largest aluminum manufacturer in the world, that focused on this first item here, future focus, being, hey, I have some changes coming up, and I want to create in future a cost-focused culture. I want to look at my costs differently. I want to provide my people inside of the organizations with different views based on their roles. So, based on these changing business environment, changing org structures, we developed a model to look at their product costs and profitability differently based on the role that the people are in. And we're very, very successful in being the enabling car of this cost culture focused environment. Another story I want to tell is this relevant and purpose driven, right? Another customer that we had Tyson, their whole purpose of creating a cost culture was they wanted to manage variances on a daily basis on an operational level, right? So whenever they process their protein, they want to manage it on a daily time aspect, and they wanted to go very, very deep into it, and that was the whole purpose of it, right? So just keep in mind when you talk about vision, what is your vision that you're trying to achieve? Values. So this cost culture also needs to represent your values. So most of the time, we always recommend these values at the core of any culture should represent these four very basic concepts, right? It needs to support your real world situations, not just some fictitious or best case scenarios, just real world situations. What is it currently doing? We need to be able to deliver timely results. And no, Excel is not always the best answer. We need to include measurable and meaningful KPIs, and they might be different from the C-level KPIs to a director level, manager level, to all the way down to the process engineers level KPIs. And we want to apply a very consistent logic and assumptions that everybody can talk about, right? So it's very important. Keep in mind when you think about defining your cost culture, keep in mind that you want to have values that define your organization with these four components. You also want to have good practices in place to make your costing process more efficient, more transparent, more accurate. And the way we do this is with the help of our platform, Impact ECS. This is what we have found to be very successful. You want to bring the right data to the right place. So you want to have what is my relevant data that I currently need, be it for product costing, be it for profitability analysis, you name it. But what is the right data that I need to integrate from what system? You need to have an intelligent way of handling this data, not just extracting, but then also transforming, harmonizing, etc. You want to create on top of this, once the data is in place, you want to create on top of this a set of business-specific rules that model these kind of processes, such as forecasts or product costs, target trip cost variances, what-if simulations, quoting applications, you name it, to then create meaningful results for yourself, your partners, your internal business partners, as well as your executive or your management level. But then spread the word. You don't want to be the only person that's smart in your organization. You need to spread the smartness across your organization to make better decisions across your organization, right? So this is some of the best practices that we have found and the way, a very good way that people use our platform. I also want to talk about the concept of people. So you want to have not only the right people in the right place, but you also need to have ways of collaborating this data. So there's definitely something to be said about smart information that is being shared across an organization that leads them to smarter decision-making capabilities, right? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. It sounds very simple, but it makes a big difference when you look at your organization. Okay, is this actually happening, or do we have gatekeepers? Right? I mean, we have nice tools in place here and there, but how can we enable our organization to share data to expand our insights across the organization? Then there's this concept of narrative. So we talked a little bit about storytelling. I think this is a super, super important concept. Again, this is part of moving the finance organization away from this this concept of being a numbers guy or bean counter, right? We want to be able to tell stories, right? And being able to tell stories might involve some of the following examples, right? We had some customers that say, hey, I want to tell a story why it is more cost efficient to produce these specific two products at a plant in Houston compared to a plant in Cincinnati, right? So there's a story behind it. It's not always as simple as providing people's numbers, right? So it's very important that you connect the dots and tell a story from an operational level to a financial level, right? And usually this transition, when you walk it from an operational analysis to a financial analysis, keep track and write down, maybe sometimes even take a blank sheet of paper and write down a couple sentences, and you'll see it comes up with a nice story that you can tell and expose your executives to. Another storytelling approach is, right, everybody talks about these regulatory issues around tariffs, right? We had a customer say, hey, I need to tell a story of what these tariffs are doing to my current business environment, and I want to tell a story how we can eliminate some risks and maybe shift things around and be more profitable, right? So there's another story. So again, these are these capabilities of telling the story. It sounds easy, but it's very complex. You have all these disparate data sources. You have all these different business models across your organization, different methodologies. So having an environment where you can combine this, look at it from an apples to apples point of view, and then really walk the story from a, hey, here's the source of the problem, here's what's happening with the change, and here's the potential impact that's going to have on our business. It's a very, very important concept. I encourage you to think about it this way in your organization as well. And of course, there's the word place. Where should we do it? There's always this notion of where should we perform this analysis, right? There's all these systems in place, such as an ERP system that we have in place, and by nature, an ERP system is a transactional system, right? Anybody who tells you differently, you can tell them, talk to Adrian, right? I'll argue with them, I promise you, right? But an ERP system, by nature, is always a transactional system, and it's made to transact, and most ERP systems are very, very good at it. They're very robust, right? They're not very flexible because they need to push a big volume of data in a very efficient way and transact against it. There's also these niche systems or user-defined applications that 20 years ago, some people came in and said, I'm going to develop a custom little application for you, and it's going to, it's going to be the best thing ever for your business. You're going to make all these better decisions. So now what happens is these applications are usually not very robust. They are somehow flexible, but they're playing a very, very specific small space, right? So they have a fence around it. There's also this little thing called Excel spreadsheets, right, which we all know is super, super flexible. You can do anything you want, but it's not very robust because it doesn't allow you to handle large volumes of data very efficiently, et cetera, et cetera. But still, it still remains the most used tool in the world of finance professionals because, again, it's simple, easy to use, right? Now, what we have decided is we want to be the best of all of these, right? So Impact ECS, our model platform, and this is the place where you should start your journey to a culture that is cost-focused, is we are highly robust in our systems and are highly flexible to model your very specific business needs, right? So, having said all this, we talked about, what is the cost culture? We talked about what are some of the best traits. We talked about what are the building stones that the cost culture is based on. What can you do? But just know, if you have the desire to, move towards or take this journey towards a cost-focused culture, you are not alone. So don't listen to me. If you don't believe me, believe Deloitte, right? But 93% is the number of companies who are currently or will be in the future taking some actions to improve the quality of their cost information and move towards this cost-driven focused culture, right? So I thought it was very underlining of our whole topic of this webinar. Having said that, I want to spend the next 10, 15 minutes showing you some real-life examples of how a cost-focused culture was established in some of our customers, what they were able to achieve. So, what you see here on the screen now is the Impact ECS application, and this is a form, so it's a navigation for the user. Can look different from user to user, but I want to bring across a very generic concept. So this specific customer, what they want to do, they want to have a place where they could go manage data. So if we click on this little button here, manage data, they can upload files, they can integrate from multiple source systems, be it bill of materials or SAP. They want to look at some materials and also want to manage versions. These versions might be raw material prices, packaged material prices, labor rates, volumes, and mix, etc., etc. So they have a place here to manage their data sets, right? And most of this is 100% automated. Now, what they wanted to do then is calculate product costs. In this case, they want to do, you want to pick and choose. I want to calculate product costs with my raw material price version, my packaged material price version, labor rate versions, planned spending version. And this might be, I want to calculate some cost of profitability with my June actual June actual raw material prices, right? You get the point. It's very important to mix. You have the capability to mix and choose from these different sets of inputs. They also do some analysis around it, compare, benchmark, even do some forward-looking stuff around what-if simulations, and then look at reports and executive views. Okay, what impact does it actually have on our business from a P&L point of view? Another example is this one. This customer wanted to have it was very crucial to them to manage quotes and how we call it a cost-based quoting approach. So they want to, what they do is they manage data, they want to modify inputs, they want to have a place where they can administrate some of the accessibility, they want to simulate some certain business scenarios, and they also want to have a reporting engine. So the whole thing I want to bring across is there's a whole flow about managing data, calculating results in a smart way, analyzing it in an insightful manner, and being able to perform these what-if simulations. Right. So what does some of this output look like? I want to show you next. So when we talk about, this is one of the examples. I got locked out because I was talking too much. So if I click on this little button. So one of the examples is this one, right? So this customer wanted to have some critical results very quickly at any point in time. So it wanted to be able to compare finished goods against each other, right? So, for example, you see here 3 different versions of this finished goods. One was the 2019 budget. The other one was the 2018 actuals. And the third version of these costs were the 2018 actual rates with 2019 raw material prices, right? So how do our finished goods costs compare against each other? So this is a very nice view. I can click on it and filter them, drill down to them. So it's a nice capability, right? So another view that allows them to make better decisions was looking at their finished goods standard cost. So they wouldn't have one view of what is my total cost per unit, my budget, what is my actual, what is my my variance between my 18 and 19 budget, where does it come from? And, you know, we can see here's the total cost per unit variances, here's my variances in just labor, here's my variances in labor cost, material cost only, you name it. Right? So I thought it was a good overview, and they can click down and drill down to all these aspects. So very insightful manners, but very quickly automated way of analyzing data and making better decisions. One of my favorite views is this one, where we want to compare on a little bit of a P&L level, right? My budget versus my actuals, right? What is my annual volume and budget and actual? What is still remaining? What are my annual costs and material costs? What does my scrap consist of? Compare my fixed and variable cost between my 19 budget, and my even my 19 actuals year to date. This is my forecast in this case. But it's nicely done, nicely organized, and this helped them very much, because now not only does it allow them, I called it here budget versus actual, but it really allows you to compare any version against it, right? So if you do budget versus actual versus forecast, if you do forecast 1 versus forecast 2 versus forecast 3, it just is a good story that we're trying to tell. Hey, when we move from one version to another version to another version, what happens? So I think that's a good example. Now, in this application, they also want to be able to manage these versions, right? And the way to manage these versions is a pretty unique one. Is we want to create new volumes of mix. We can copy them from existing ones. We want to create new raw material price versions, be it pulling them from our ERP system, or we want to just maybe say, okay, a group of raw materials, such as, let's say, flour, we expect a 5% increase in the next year, right? So let's simulate that. So yeah, all these kind of things are very flexible in our platform and are easily done. Also managing these simulations. So in this case, they want to have a simulation that's around raw material prices. They want to select a material group, select a value. Let's say here, I want to take my 19 actual material prices. I want to take this specific group. I want to make an adjustment of 5%, right? And I can click a button and automatically update my prices, see what this will do to my bottom line, to all the way to my P&L. Okay. So that was a nice example that's very, very quickly done, very flexibly done, but has a lot of impact on how you look at your business every day. Last but not least, I want to show you this variance initiative. So we have these customers that say, hey, I want to further deep dive into my variances. I want to do it in an automated way, you know, and my Excel world just doesn't do it anymore. It's not maintainable. It takes too long, and we just need to spread all these variances and show these people in a different way where the variances occur. So this is a little dashboard that we created for one of our customers is, hey, let's look at my material costs. Where did the variances come from? They came from these two divisions. They came from these material groups, so carton, chemical usage, color usage, you name it. Now let's look at our labor, for example. Did it come from our direct labor, from double time pay or overtime pay? Where did it come from? From which division did it come from? And we actually calculated here a concept or a metric that I think is very helpful in looking at variances, because we have a budgeted amount and we have an earned amount. An earned amount is what we should have used based on our utilization and performance, right? So really coming up with a very tangible variance there.
Hey, Adrian,
if you look at our energy variance. Yep,
Sorry, can I pop in? I had a question come in and I thought maybe I would just interrupt you. So the question,
absolutely.
yeah, the question is, how are you capturing overhead costs or other purchase burdens? Is there a place where you enter information like this?
Yeah, I mean, just well, okay, overhead. So if we look at this allocated, this is basically overhead that's allocated towards specific plans, right? And we would analyze our variances here. And if I double click, I can click in um, each of the line items, and I will directly see, okay, this variance is made up from all these areas, from all these accounts that were allocated from a specific overhead account, right? So there's many ways of doing it, but it's just one example of doing this, right? We kept usually this overhead data that's all captured in the ERP system. We get it automatically in real time or at the end of the month, and then perform some allocations and calculate variances, right? But good question. I like it. So yeah, it all goes back to really these three scenarios, right? So a lot of times we perform a cost or profitability functionality that is not as user-friendly in your ERP system. That's one scenario. The second scenario is we copy what is currently in your ERP system and then become this simulation engine or this variance calculation engine. And the third one is we provide these more enhanced, more detailed views, because a lot of times people are limited to the dimensions that you have available in your ERP system, right? And with Impact ECS, you're not limited to those. Yeah, good question. Happy to talk about this further as well. Stacey, before I jump out of the application, are there any other questions?
Well, hang on. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can promote Megan to the call because she has a follow-up question. So can you hear
Awesome.
us?
I
And
love
do
it.
you have a microphone? You can engage Adrian and talk a little more.
Megan?
Oh, maybe they don't have a mic. Oh, well, that would have been fun. But hey, I'll go ahead and ask the question. Does this method enable you to understand cost of production of a part?
100%. Not just our cost of production, but we believe it shouldn't stop at your cost of production, right? Cost of production might mean might be the raw materials you put in. It might mean your production process or your transformation process, what happened there. It might mean your packaging. It might mean your delivery. It just depends on what you define. First of all, your production cost. That's number one. But we do all of these. And we even go a step further and say you should never stop at just understanding your production cost. You need to go a step further and say, okay, what is it really going to cost me to serve my customers? Right? We have customers that look all the way. What does it cost me from after it leaves my final step of production? What are my post-production costs? Right? Warehouse, picking, packing, shelving, put it into a store, etc. Right? What is the cost of some of these activities to truly calculate an end-to-end profitability? Right? So yes, 100%. This calculates your production cost for not only for each finished good, but for all your finished goods or semi-finished goods. But we also would we'd like to look a little bit further than just production costs.
Excellent. Thanks, Adrian. Carry on.
Great. All right, so I hope this gives you a little bit of a sneak peek. I want to spend another 2-3 minutes inside of our presentation and just kind of open up for some more questions. So we looked at some real life examples. So let's look at some rules off the road for making decisions in a cost-focused culture, right? And again, this is something that we put together. I believe they resonate very well, at least they do with all these companies that we talk to, right? So these opinions and assumptions can be changed based on data. So there's no reason anymore why it should take anybody, any finance professional, a couple hours to update an Excel spreadsheet to come up with an answer, right? I mean, it's just, I remember when I was an analyst, and that was a long time ago, 17, 18 years ago, it was normal to say, okay, I'm going to need a couple of days to figure this out. Today, the CFO walks into the office and says, hey, what is the answer to this problem? Right? The expectation is you're always supposed to have an accurate data in a very fast way. So employees can manage data independently, right? So I think it's a very important one. Nobody can disagree with that. It's just a way more efficient way of working of an organization. The organization embraces the improvements suggested by data, right? This is a journey. This is not come from one day to another, but it starts at the very top of organizations that trusting data, trusting the tools you have in place, will lead to a cost-focused culture. Right? And data is a big part of it. Analytics is part of everyone's job, 100%. It's nobody today as a finance professional should get paid for copy and pasting activities. Right? People get paid for providing insights and analysis into what are some of the current challenges that we're having, why are they occurring, what impact do they have, and how do we overcome them, right? This is what people get paid for. Data is organized, accessible, and of a high quality, right? It's easier said than done. I'm 100% aware of that, but it's still very important to notice that you need to make an effort to have an organized and accessible and high-quality data set if you will go down this road of a cost-focused culture. Might not be from day one, but that's definitely a goal. Each opinion is supported by numbers of data. I think that's important. Again, moving away from this, hey, we're making the decisions because we always done it this way, from a gut feeling to a data-driven decision-making culture. Accessibility, and of course, reports, and not just reports that are sent out in a periodic way. No, everybody at any point in time should be able to have an interactive way of accessing your analytical tool sets and get the answers they need at the current moment, right? And that's kind of where I want to leave this. This is the last slide that I had. So I want to open up and leave a couple minutes for questions. As Stacy mentioned, I'm happy if anybody wants to join me. I'll be even more happy. And if somebody just has questions, just put them in the chat.
Yeah, sure. We have the chat box and the question box open if anyone has any questions, but I'll just say as we kind of wait to see if anyone else joins in, that part of this whole cost-focused culture is creating opportunities to take away things that Adrian, I think this is what your message is, taking away those things that are copy paste and not really value added, to allow you to spend time doing the things that are focusing on the questions that really need to be answered. So instead of being asked, what's the cost of this thing, you're asking, why is the cost of this thing? So I think that's what you're trying to drive the message about with the costing culture.
Absolutely, Stacey.
Yeah.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions coming in, but if you have any final thoughts, we can go ahead, I guess, and wrap up with the call today.
Yeah, I do have, well, don't ask me if I have some final thoughts. I can go on with it. But I do want to know who you are. I want to learn about your organization, and I want you to challenge me, and that's why I want to connect with you. So I hope you found this informational and useful, And please contact me, shoot me an email, hit me up on LinkedIn, check us out on 3D Software. Ask Stacy in our chat box on our website, say, hey, can I talk to Adrian? I'm happy to do it. And I would love to get to know you guys, get to know your challenges, and let's talk about how we can start this journey towards a cost culture inside of your organization.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for your time and attention this afternoon. We appreciate you spending some time with us on this web call. Again, look out for some emails from us real soon with information on how you can watch the recording as well as view the slides that we presented in today's session. So thanks again, Adrian. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.